He was the hero of Saratoga, the man who delivered one of the biggest victories of the American Revolution. His name was spoken with the same reverence as George Washington's. Congress even awarded him a gold medal, the highest honor they could give. So, what happens when a hero turns into a coward? This is the story of General Horatio Gates. It's the story of how the celebrated victor of Saratoga not only lost a battle but fled the field, leaving his own army to be completely destroyed in one of the most humiliating defeats America has ever suffered. This is the story of the Battle of Camden. To really get how far Horatio Gates fell, you have to understand just how high he'd climbed. By 1777, the American Revolution was looking pretty shaky. That summer, a huge British army led by General John Burgoyne swept down from Canada into New York. The plan was to capture the Hudson River Valley and cut New England off from the rest of the colonies, which might have ended the war right there. The American force standing in their way was the Northern Army, and its commander was Horatio Gates. Through a brutal series of fights that would become known as the Battles of Saratoga, the Americans managed to stop the British invasion cold. On October 17, 1777, General Burgoyne, completely surrounded and out of options, surrendered his entire army of nearly 6,000 men to Gates. It was an unbelievable victory, a turning point that changed the course of the war. The news sent shockwaves through the colonies and across the Atlantic to London. Most importantly, it was the victory that convinced France to officially jump into the war on America's side, bringing the money, soldiers, and ships that would make all the difference. And who was at the center of it all? Horatio Gates. He was celebrated everywhere as the hero of Saratoga. For a while, his star burned brighter than anyone's, even Washington's. There was even a secret plot, called the Conway Cabal, to get Washington fired and put Gates in charge of the entire Continental Army. The plot fizzled out, but it shows you just how much power and respect Gates commanded. He was ambitious, arrogant, and truly believed he was the better general. So in 1780, when the war in the South took a disastrous turn, Congress looked to Gates to be the savior once again. It was a decision that would lead to absolute catastrophe. By the summer of 1780, the American war effort in the South was on the verge of total collapse. The city of Charleston had fallen, and an entire American army went with it, captured. Congress, desperate, handed command of a new Southern army to Horatio Gates. This was his big chance to prove Saratoga wasn't a fluke and that he was the military genius he said he was. Almost from day one, his leadership was a masterclass in how not to run an army. His new command was a patchwork force. He had a corps of tough, professional Continental soldiers from Maryland and Delaware, but the vast majority were inexperienced militia who were barely supplied and totally unprepared for a real campaign. His own officers, men who knew the land, begged him to take a westerly route towards the British base at Camden, South Carolina. That path went through friendly country, where they could get food and supplies. Gates just waved them off. He was in a hurry. He chose a shortcut, a direct route that went straight through a miserable, swampy wasteland of pine barrens, a place crawling with British sympathizers. The march became a disaster before they ever saw a redcoat. The land was picked clean, with nothing to eat for the men or their horses. For days, the soldiers survived on a sickening diet of green corn and unripe peaches. It gave them all dysentery, which tore through the ranks. One soldier grimly wrote that they resorted to mixing the powder from their wigs into watery soup just to make it thicker. By the time Gates's Grand Army got close to Camden, it was half destroyed by disease, starvation, and exhaustion. He had started with more men than the enemy and had squandered that advantage through pure, stubborn negligence. His final mistake came on the night of August 15th. Thinking he had the element of surprise, Gates ordered his army on a night march. He had no idea that the British commander, Lord Cornwallis, had the exact same plan. In the dead of night, the two armies literally crashed into each other, starting a battle that neither of them had planned for. In the dark, early hours of August 16, 1780, the two armies pulled back from their accidental collision and got ready for a fight. And it's here that General Gates made his single worst decision. The military playbook of the time said you put your best, most experienced troops on the right flank, the position of honor and strength. Gates did exactly that, putting his elite Maryland and Delaware Continentals on the right. The problem he either ignored or didn't care about was that his opponent, the sharp and aggressive Lord Cornwallis, did the exact same thing. Cornwallis put his best troops, his hardened British regulars, directly across from the American left flank. And who did Gates put there? The sick, exhausted, and now terrified Virginia militia, men who had never seen a real battle in their lives. As the sun came up, the British line moved forward, a wave of glinting bayonets. The Virginians were ordered to fix bayonets, but many had never been taught how, and some didn't even have them. Staring down a wall of disciplined, professional killers, their nerve just shattered. They panicked. Without firing much more than a single, ragged shot, the entire Virginia militia turned and ran. The panic was like a disease. It spread to the North Carolina militia in the center, who also threw down their guns and fled for their lives. In just a few minutes, more than half of the American army was gone. It had just evaporated into the woods. The entire left and center of the American line simply ceased to exist. Only one part of the army stood its ground. While the American left dissolved into chaos, the right flank, led by a tough German officer named Baron Johann de Kalb, fought like lions. The Maryland and Delaware Continentals, now outnumbered and facing the full weight of the British Army, didn't run. They held their line and even counterattacked with stunning ferocity. For a moment, it looked like they might pull off a miracle. De Kalb was everywhere, screaming encouragement, leading from the very front. But it was hopeless. Cornwallis turned his entire army and smashed into the isolated American flank. A final, brutal cavalry charge from the infamous Banastre Tarleton hit them from behind, and the last bit of resistance crumbled. Baron de Kalb was found on the field with what was said to be 11 different bayonet and bullet wounds. He died a few days later, a prisoner, and was buried with full military honors by the British officers who were in awe of his bravery. And where was General Horatio Gates while his best men were fighting and dying? He was gone. When the militia first broke and ran, Gates was swept up in the retreat. But he didn't stop. While Baron de Kalb was being cut to pieces, his commander was on the fastest horse he could find, galloping north as fast as he could. He didn't stop at the army's pre-planned rally point. He didn't try to gather what was left of his forces. He just kept riding. He rode 60 miles that day alone, reaching Charlotte, North Carolina by nightfall. In total, he fled 180 miles in 3 days before he finally stopped in the safety of Hillsborough. It was a ride that shocked his contemporaries. Alexander Hamilton, who was no fan of Gates, wrote with pure sarcasm, "But was there ever an instance of a general running away as Gates has done from his whole army? And was there ever so precipitous a flight? 180 miles in 3 days and a half. It does admirable credit to the activity of a man at his time of life, but it disgraces the general and the soldier." The Battle of Camden was one of the most lopsided defeats in U.S. military history. In less than an hour, an entire American army had been wiped out. Nearly 900 Americans were killed or wounded, and another 1,000 were captured. The British lost only about 300 men. The road was now clear for Cornwallis to take control of the entire South. The Hero of Saratoga was now the Coward of Camden. His reputation was destroyed, utterly and permanently. A few months later, a disgraced Horatio Gates was officially removed from command. And while an inquiry later cleared him of any official crime, he was never trusted with a field command again. But from the ashes of this complete disaster, a turning point emerged. To replace Gates, George Washington recommended General Nathanael Greene, one of the most brilliant and resilient commanders of the entire war. Greene took the broken remnants of the Southern Army and masterfully rebuilt it. He launched a brilliant campaign that didn't try to win every battle, but instead wore down Cornwallis's army, eventually forcing the British into the strategic corner that would lead to the final American victory at Yorktown. So what should we make of Horatio Gates? Was he just unlucky, or was he a fraud all along? Many historians now argue that Saratoga was won more by his subordinates, like the infamous Benedict Arnold, than by Gates himself. But at Camden, there was no one else to blame. His arrogance, his terrible planning, and his shocking decision to abandon his men in their darkest hour revealed a total failure of leadership. His desperate flight from the battlefield is a chilling reminder that the line between a hero and a coward can be incredibly thin. Sometimes, it's just one disastrous decision. What's your take? Was Horatio Gates a misunderstood general, or was he a coward who got what he deserved? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure you like and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Thanks for watching.